The Yanks took 2 out of 3 from the A's this weekend, including a 12-run explosion on Sunday, but offensive inconsistency, rotation questions, and a crucial road trip to Toronto and Citi Field are all looming. So is this a sign of a turnaround or just a temporary spark by the Bronx Bombers? I'm joined now by New York Post baseball writer Dan Martin. Joins me to help break it all down. Dan, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Dex. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing pretty good. Can't complain. Let's start with the big picture here, Dan, for the Yankees. They took 2 out of 3 from the A's, but the offense had been sluggish for most of June. We've seen this. Does Sunday's 12-run outburst feel like a true turning point, or is it just a temporary outlier here and you need to see more?
I think we all need to see more. The 12 runs was a good sign for them, but it did come against the A's. It came against Luis Severino, who has had tipping problems before, and the Yankees know that better than anyone. So we'll find out if that was a product of something that Severino was doing and the Yankees took advantage of, or if, like you said, this could be a turning point. They're going to need more than one game, though, to really break out of what's been ailing them for the better part of a month. After their offense was so good for 2 months, and it really just went MIA for a month there. So, 12 runs is nice on a Sunday afternoon against the A's, but we know what the A's are. We know what Severino is these days. A positive sign, but we'll know a lot more this week in Toronto and then going forward.
Yeah, big week. We're going to get to that a little bit later. Aaron Judge, he's still doing Aaron Judge things. 2 more homers on Sunday. But I think the question is, how sustainable is this attack if he's got to carry the load by himself every night? Because that's what it's felt like with the Yankees, Aaron Judge carrying the load. How sustainable is that?
I think we found out it's not very sustainable at all because, this 2-week or 2.5 week stretch where they really haven't played well, that's coincided with him not playing that well. And nobody else really came to the forefront and made up for what he had been doing all year long. A couple of guys did, but from top to bottom, they've been unproductive. And, Aaron Judge, when he's at his best, or even when he's not at his best, when he's just playing pretty well, he masks a lot of other issues in the offense. He's done it for years now, and he continues to do it this year. They don't have Juan Soto to help him out. So when other guys go in a slump, and he even has a week where he's not hitting, lately until yesterday, he wasn't hitting really much at all. This is what happens to the offense. They completely go silent. Jazz Chisum did some nice things, but he's not enough. He can't do it on his own. So, Aaron Judge is going to be the best hitter in the game probably for the next couple of years. But he is going to go through streaks where he's not. What the Yankees need to do is figure out a way to use the depth of their lineup, which they thought they had addressed in the offseason with Cody Bellinger and some other guys, some other additions that they made. But so far, the past month or so, it hasn't happened. And it just, it feels like it has the past couple of years. When Aaron Judge isn't going, the Yankees aren't going. And as great as he is, he can't be the guy 162 games out of the year and in the postseason.
Yeah, that's just not fair to him to carry that load the whole time. Now, you mentioned Jazz Chisum. I'm glad you did, because he did look sharp in that series against the A's. Couple of big hits, some stellar defense that we saw from him. Is he starting to settle in as the dynamic sidekick for Aaron Judge in this lineup that they've been missing? Could he be that guy?
He could be. He's been really good since he came back from the IL. He missed a couple of weeks there with an oblique injury. He came back. He started hitting better. He was really slumping before that injury. He came back. He talked about talking to Pat Russell, one of the Yankee hitting coaches, about going 70%. That got a lot of headlines at the time a few weeks ago. And some people misunderstood what he was saying, like he wasn't trying as hard. But Jazz Chisum is the most energetic person and player that you'll ever come across. And he even said, he's had coaches tell him for years, you kind of play with your hair on fire. And sometimes if you take it back a little bit, you might be more productive. And so that's really what he's tried to do since the injury. And he had a short rehab assignment where he worked on that as well. And it seems like the results are pretty good. I don't know how sustainable it is, but we've seen it since he got here from the Marlins last year. He's capable of putting together some great stretches. He's versatile in the field. He's just plays the game with a lot of life, which the Yankees could use sometimes. And I don't think what he's doing right now, he can carry that up, but it's a great sign for the Yankees, who need a little bit more length in that lineup, a little bit more protection for Aaron Judge, as we talked about. And so I think they have a nice player there. I don't know if he can really be Judge's sidekick. I think they need somebody else to be the number two guy in the lineup. But he's a great piece to have. His willingness to play third base and learn it on the fly last year, and then play there again this year when DJ LeMahieu feels more comfortable at second. That's a good sign. I don't know if that's where they want to keep everyone for the rest of the year, because they need to make some moves before the trade deadline. But that's a story for another day. But they have a month to figure that out, where everyone goes. But in the meantime, to have Jazz Chisum productive in the lineup, playing good baseball at third base, it's very valuable for a team that needs it right now.
Yeah, you'll at least take that. And the Yankees will still try to figure out what the sidekick situation is going to be for Aaron Judge as we move forward. Now, Marcus Stroman, he had a strong return to the rotation on Saturday. What's his outlook moving forward, and could his role change if the Yanks start getting healthy in that rotation?
Yeah, that'll be the big question. There was a time when we weren't sure how Marcus Stroman would fit into the rotation at all in the spring, and he talked about not wanting to pitch out of the bullpen. But then Garrett Cole went down for the year. Luis Gil went down for the first half of the season at least. And there was Marcus Stroman pitching, starting for them in April. And then obviously he went down with the left knee inflammation from his ACL injury 10 years ago. Now he's back, and they need him because they just don't have a lot of rotation depth. They've gotten some great pitching. I would say everyone would agree that their rotation has overperformed, considering that the injuries that they've dealt with, whether it's Max Fried being, one of the best pitchers in baseball, or Carlos Rodon really taking his game to another level this year. But Marcus Stroman could fill a role here, at least until Gil gets back. So Luis Gil's been out since spring training, and they think he might be back sometime around or a little bit after the All-Star break. So there are some questions there about what Stroman will do once that happens. But in the meantime, that he can make another start, two starts. And these days, with the way the Yankees are in the standings and the state of their roster, I think that's what they're concerned with, is just how do we get through the next rotation swing. And if Stroman can help them do that for the rest of July, then they'll take it, and they'll figure out what to do with him after that, whether that's in a trade or maybe another injury will pop up. He talked that his knee is still going to be sore. That's something he's going to have to deal with. So, they probably don't want to ride him too hard. So his role is still kind of up in the air, but in the meantime, he's going to be a valuable arm in that rotation for the next few weeks at least.
Yeah, he is. And if you can hold it down, that would be huge for the Yankees. Now, speaking of the Yankees, they hit the road this week. 4-game series in Toronto. Then it's the Subway Series. 3 games against the struggling Mets. What are you going to be keeping your eye on with the Bronx Bombers this week, Dan?
Just kind of what we talked about, especially with that offense, was Sunday a sign that guys are going to break out. Volpe has been struggling. Austin Wells has been struggling. Bellinger hasn't been as good as he was earlier in the year. He obviously had a great game on Sunday. They haven't gotten too much out of Giancarlo Stanton since he's come back. They need these guys to perform, and they need to play better against the AL East. So they have a series in Toronto before that Subway Series. That's big for them because they've seen their lead in the division go from 7 games at the end of May to a game and a half over Tampa Bay at the end of June here. So there's a lot of issues that they got to fix. This would be a good week to start. They did okay against the A's. I think they would have liked to have swept that series, considering where the A's are. But they won 3 out of 4. They just, every year we've talked about it, they struggle at some point, usually in June or maybe in July, and then they get themselves straightened out. So now they've got to straighten themselves out. Was this weekend a sign that that's going to happen? A visit to Toronto will be a good test, and we'll see what the Mets look like when the Yankees get there at the end of the week. They're a mess right now, but there's no guarantees that they'll still be a mess when the Yankees get to Queens on Friday.
Yeah, who knows? It could be Subway Series where both teams are a mess. We're not hoping for that, but you never know what you'll see. Big week for the Yankees coming up. As I said, 4 games in Toronto, then the Subway Series over the holiday weekend. That is Dan Martin, baseball writer, here with us for the New York Post, doing a fantastic job. Dan, always a pleasure to see you, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, Dex. Thanks.